When I go back to what really got me into horror, there's no denying that it was Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street. He is the slasher that stands above the rest to me. And while it's not a debate, I can't help but say the fact that I think Freddy Krueger is the greatest horror villain of all times. And there's no denying that the kills in this series are some of the most creative kills we've ever seen in horror movies. And today, we're going to look at my top 5 favorite kills from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. There's no denying I'm a big Freddy fan, so I'm really excited to do this video. Without further ado, top 5 Freddy Krueger kills. Coming in at number 5, from A Nightmare on Elm Street, the Dream Child, is Mark's death. You remember Mark? The guy who was really into comic books? Truth be told, I'm not really a big comic book guy. But because of Mark being an outsider, I've always related to his character. And that's part of the reason he makes number 5 on my list. You know, it seems like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5 is not a really big fan favorite. And I don't really see why. I think it's a really good movie. Sure, it may have been rushed a little bit right after Part 4 came out, but Part 5 was its own entity. It didn't seem anything like Part 4, and I really appreciated that. And this comic book sequence is really cool. If you're into old school animation, then this scene is definitely for you. There was some really cool tricks used in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, and this was right before the heartbeat of CGI. So in Mark's dream, he turns into this character he was reading about called the Phantom Prowler, a comic book hero. I remember the first time seeing Super Freddy and thinking how cool it was. They actually didn't use Robert Englund for this. They had another actor play this part. Super Freddy was really cool. I wish we could have seen more of him. Unfortunately for this comic book fan though, it looks like Mark is out of print. Coming in at number 4 is actually also going to be from A Nightmare on Elm Street 5. Now I know, I'm coming across as a Dream Child fanboy. You guys just gotta trust me. This is a really great scene from the franchise, Gretas Death. This looks like something straight out of a Tim Burton movie scene. So Greta and her mom are having a dinner party, and Greta is really sad she's mourning the death of her friend. But her mom is giving her crap about not eating anything, and all these guests are there just acting all weird. It's a really weird scene, but it's very eye-catching. Before we know it though, there's going to be a special guest, and no, I'm not talking about Chef Ramsay. Before we know it, Chef Freddy shows up and decides he's going to help Greta get her meal planned. Bon appetit! Freddy starts to shove all kinds of food down Greta's mouth. Her face looks like something right out of a Willy Wonka movie. This scene just absolutely grosses me out. You know, maybe I am in the minority in liking some of these later kills in the series, but there's something about Funny Freddy that I just love, especially Chef Freddy. So Freddy starts to pick up Greta and chokes her, and it looks like she's choking in real life. We pan back over to Alice where her fridge is turning really gross and green and everything's dying. Pan back out and we see an awesome shot of Greta in the refrigerator. That shot always creeped me out when I was young. Unfortunately for poor Greta, it looks like Freddy Krueger has her stuffed. Coming up third on my list comes from 1991's Freddys Dead. There's two kinds of people that walk this earth. People that don't like Freddys Dead and people that do. And I'm one of those people that likes Freddys Dead. Like Mark from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, Carlos was another guy I just identified with. I guess I like his style. So in Freddys Dead, Carlos had to wear a hearing aid, and what does Freddy do? He gives him the Hearing Aid 5000, where everything is cranked up to 11. Spinal Tap reference. Every single thing Freddy does just makes his eardrums pierce and pierce and pierce until finally, Carlos's head basically just explodes, giving him a bad case of getting an earful.
Please, God.
This!
Coming in at number 2 needs no introduction. From the original A Nightmare on Elm Street is the Pirate of the Caribbean himself, Johnny Depp, as Glenn getting sucked into the bed. There's really not much I can say about this scene that just hasn't already been said. It's just one of the greatest horror movie scenes in history, getting sucked into the bed. What could be more scarier than that? And that TV had to hurt on the way down. Coming in at number 1 on my list is from my favorite in the entire franchise, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. And it's not necessarily just the kill, it's this entire sequence. of Jesse having Freddy burst right out of him. This was actually the very first Nightmare on Elm Street film I ever watched, and it horrified me to no end. I stared at the screen during this sequence, could not say a word. I was absolutely terrified. It sticks with me to this day as one of the scariest moments in a horror movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I've talked to friends about this scene and how they would say, man, it would be so scary to be Jesse. I'm thinking, what would it be like to be Grady at this point? The fear in Grady's eyes is so real. I gotta give it to him. He really played this part well. Guys, I'll even go on record to say this. Not only is this the scariest moment in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but I think it's one of the scariest moments in horror movie history. Thank you guys for watching. Really hope you enjoyed this list. Be sure to subscribe for more videos and hit that bell to be notified whenever I upload. It's getting close to Halloween, guys. We're gonna have a good time, but unfortunately for Grady, I don't think this is gonna end well.